Hi and welcome to another singing lesson. This one I've already covered, but I just want to run it through for the lyric sopranos. It's the numbers warming up just for your speaking voice, just to loosen the voice. It's a very gentle way to loosen the voice. I've talked about it quite a bit in other videos, so I just want to do it. You should be doing this if you're a lyric soprano. Don't sing along with Carrie if you're a baritone, a mezzo-soprano, or a tenor, or any other voice type. But if your voice is a bit like Carrie's, if you're a lyrical soprano, then join in with this one. So we'll start in the low part of the speaking voice. Let's start there, Carrie. 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. Let's do a few and see how we go.
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Down the scale.
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, so let's have a look at the teaching points, main teaching points, which I'll come back to again and again and again. Breathing is very important for singing. So first thing, when we take a breath, we don't want to use the upper part of our lungs too much and engage the scaling muscles at the top. So we don't want shoulders lifting when we breathe. That's because we want all this area to be relaxed, ready to sing and perform on the stage. So instead we're going to access the intercostal muscles around the ribs, keep the shoulders low. It's a good idea to stand with the best posture you can and very balanced in your body, and try and stay really, really relaxed and balanced. Okay.
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
last one.
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Excellent. So Carrie's looking nice and relaxed in there. Perhaps could relax even more. So in between each one, just give things a little shake. Think happy thoughts. A bit like, you know, when you see a runner running in the Olympics, maybe they're doing the 100-meter sprint, and just before they start, they want everything to be as relaxed as possible. So you just see them sort of shaking on the start line and just giving little twitches like that. So think of it like that as you do this little exercise. Think happy thoughts as well. Don't try to impress on the sound or anything too much. But that was pretty much perfect. When you get to these low ones, there's something you can practice on the breathing, the sit breath. Tiny little breaths in between each one. And the idea is to practice taking just the amount of breath you need for that phrase. And on this exercise, of course, the phrases keep getting longer and longer and longer and longer. So if you take the first phrase, 1, it's just one short note. Take a little sit breath. 1, 2, 1. You'll need another very small sit breath. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. You'll need a slightly bigger sit breath. But when I say sit breath, a slightly bigger one, I'm talking about, you know, that much bigger, a tiny amount bigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 and then down 1. 1, 1, 2, 1, breathe. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, breathe. Okay, so if you could just put those little sit breaths in, just as a challenge for releasing the muscles that you're using to support the sound, engaging the muscles that you use to allow air into your lungs, and then re-engaging the support. That all has to happen very quickly, and it happens very easy, very naturally. But it's a good exercise to practice on. Should we have a go?
Yes.
And
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
so, well done. So you will feel perhaps that you don't need to take all those breaths, but this is about breath control, which means that you breathe when you decide, I'm going to take a little breath in there. Not because you need it or because you don't need it, but because you've planned it. You're in control of it. So same in here. 2, 3, go.
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Do you feel the way your body kind of does that little spring back when you do it right?
Convulsion almost.
Yeah, it's like a little convulsion, right, exactly. Same thing.
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The toughest one to get in is actually after the 1. 1, because you feel like, well, I've just breathed and there's no air, there's no room to get the air in. So don't breathe so much in the first place. When we breathe, we tend to think, okay, I'm full of air, and then you sing and you're out of air, so I need to take another breath. But actually, we could be a bit more precise than that. Think of breathing in terms of percentages. Carrie, could you fill up until you're 80% full of air? And you get and do that at home as well, and you get a feel for what that feels like. Now go right up to 90% full of air. Up to 100, so you can't get any more in. You may start to feel the shoulders rise at this point. So we've reached our limit. We don't want to go into shoulder rising territory, but expand the ribs all the way around. And as you hold that, you'll feel a little bit tense around here because muscles are working hard. Relax down to 50% full, and down to 40% full. 30% full should feel really pretty relaxed, 20% full. And you may well find that you've already got rid of all your air, because these percentages, these 10% of air that I'm talking about, is actually not very much at all. So we very quickly move between the percentages. Can you fill up to 50% full? Do this at home. Up to 60% full, up to 70% full, up to 80% full. Make sure you're not 90 or 100 yet, 80% full. Down to 70, up to 80, down to 70, up to 80, down to 70, up to 80. Just keep that going as I'm talking to you. Try and keep your mouth in the same position. Try and keep it very relaxed, and all these muscles very relaxed as you do it, until you feel a bit like, it's almost like you have a feeling like you're yawning, or like you're very relaxed. And you just keep that going, and you'll feel a little bit of expansion and retraction in the ribs. Has it made you yawn?
Yes.
Excellent, marvellous. So if you feel the yawn come onto you, it may be that you're a bit tired, of course, but most likely is that you are accessing your diaphragm, and the column of air is getting really deep into the lungs, and you're triggering the sympathetic reflex within your body that makes you want to yawn. It's a good thing. Try to go back to that place where you trigger that 80% full, and down to 50. Make sure everything is even more relaxed. Keep checking. It's very easy for a tiny tension to creep in, and for us not to be completely like a rag doll as we're standing, completely Thunderbird-like, like you're just, everything's just loose and hanging. Okay, let's do a few more of those sit breaths. 2, 3, you're yawning and the eyes are watering and everything. Sorry to do that to you, Karen. 2, 3, go.
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Excellent. Now when we take those little sit breaths, if we can in this, take them as quietly as possible. If you hear any kind of noises like that, then the throat's slightly closed and it's probably slightly high. So instead, try to feel like the air just falls in a sit breath. 1, and I breathed. But there's no sound, there's no kind of obvious action, no kind of surprise kind of face that goes with it. It does feel a bit like a shocked breath, but it should feel low in the stomach area. In fact, you may even feel that it starts to make you feel a little bit queasy, and that's your diaphragm coming down on your stomach, so that's a good sign as well. Okay, up the scale.
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep it small.
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now all that breathing through the mouth, as I mentioned in a previous video, can cause a slight problem, which Carrie had there, which is it can just dry your throat a little bit, and that can cause your voice to just stick for a second. So if you do feel that, have a rest, have a sip of water from a lovely pink water bottle, sponsored by, no, we're not doing that. Okay, carrying on up the scale, 2 or 3 more. 2, 3. So slightly, the lyric soprano speaking voice is slightly easier to go slightly higher. You wouldn't go so high in a mezzo-soprano voice when you're doing this speaking voice loosening exercise. You wouldn't go so high with the baritone voices or the robust tenor voices. But with a lyric soprano, if you're a lyric, you should be a lyric soprano at home as well. If you're not a lyric soprano, this video isn't really for you. This should be fine. 3 more. Here we go. And
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
now, because at this point the voice starts to stretch a little bit more, your thyroidnoid muscle shouldn't be doing quite so much work, and we want the cricothyroid muscle to just, in the very slightest way, start to get involved. and the arytenoids to stretch the vocal cords a little bit more. And that is best served by not breathing every single one. So that sit breath technique should be done on the lower ones when it's the voice doesn't need to stretch so much. But at this point, we want to connect those sounds a bit more and feel like everything is joined up and stretching nicely. So on these last three, Carrie, if you can do it all in one breath, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you'll notice when you get to the 1 that there's a sustained N sound. It may feel like it's a little bit nasal in a way, but that's the nature of a correct N sound. So allow that and feel that resonance. Here we go. 2, 3.
1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well done. So all in one breath. A different challenge. So now, because you're doing it all in one breath, we want to be 80% full at the beginning, not 90 or 100, so we're 2/10, but 80% full. And by the time you get to the end, you'll probably be about 10% full or 20% full. Where do you think you got to at the end? So about 20% full, or were you pretty much down to 10?
20.
20. Excellent.